Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I am joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall, and Todd Wright. Michael Reed is not with us today. He's working late on his job, but we are joined by Todd, thankfully, and with special guest for the first time ever, Ian Cummings, NFL draft analyst for Pro Football Network 365. Thank you for joining us, Ian. How are you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Always happy to talk. Not just draft, but Washington football team too, because that was where I kind of got my roots, so to speak. Wrote for them for quite a few years, and it's good to see them now trending in the right direction. Because most of my tenure at Rigos was under Jay Gruden and Dan Snyder's. That not good. It's still Snyder, but things are looking up with Ron Rivera. So happy to see that, and happy to be here.
Yeah, no, not only are they winning off the field, they look like they're winning on the field as well. But to start this off, Ian, you being an NFL draft analyst, the first-round pick for the Washington football team at 19 was the quarterback of the defense with Jamin Davis. And there's a lot of mixed feelings about Jamin's first preseason game on Friday against the Patriots. How did you feel he played, and do you think that he is capable of playing the Mike position week one?
Yeah, I thought it was kind of what I expected to see from him. A lot of his profile was a very traitsy guy. Obviously has that big upside. I'm pulling up his RAS right now, relative athletic score, but 6'3.5", 234, 44.8, 40, 42-inch vertical. So, insanely explosive and long, and has all those physical traits. And he showed off instances of good recognition ability on tape in college. Like when he's confident in what he's seeing, he plays very fast. But as we saw in the preseason in week one, I think that things were moving a little faster for him. And it was a little difficult. There's definitely going to be an acclimation period for him, because if you're a linebacker at the second level, you need to read things, and you can't always wait until things clean up. You need to be able to be instinctive and kind of trigger before you understand what's going on. And so I think that for him, seeing those keys and reading those keys and reacting to those keys, it's going to be a process. It's going to take a little bit of time. So I'm not quite sure how confident I am in him starting as the Mike guy right off the bat week one. But at the same time, I can understand a trial by fire approach for him. And he's clearly a quick learner. I mean, we've kind of seen that from Rivera. He's mentioned that multiple times. And you saw that in college too, where, he'd show those instances where he actually recognizes and he has the instincts to know what he's looking at. So it's going to be a process. It's going to take time, but I'm not too worried about it because it's early, and he has all the upside in the world. You talk about the physical traits, the athleticism, it's all there. And especially playing behind this defensive lineman, they're going to keep things clean a lot. So I think he's in the right situation. It's just going to take time. And people who are expecting him to ball out in week one, I mean, you got to temper your expectations a little bit because he is a rookie. He is a little raw. But I think it'll come in time. I don't think we need to panic at this point.
All right, so the NFL Top 100 list came out just the other day, and our boy Terry was not at all on that list. You had Corey Davis at 91.
Jarvis Landry, too.
Jarvis Landry was at 94, and Terry wasn't even on the list. Tell me what happened. What's your reaction to that?
What happened is, man, you have a bunch of NFL players, and you're getting a bunch of different lists from them. I mean, you can't expect them to judge it the way you would, people, there's biases, people rooting for their own players, it's tough to get a cohesive list that everyone's going to agree with. And I mean, I can see why people would have Jarvis Landry on there, like players would have him on there. I can see why players would have Corey Davis, but looking at it from the outside, if you're an evaluator, you can kind of tell Terry McLaurin should be on that list above them. It's just kind of,
just a little bit.
If it's a players list, you're gonna get this occasionally. I mean, there's other stuff too, like Zach Martin at 85. He's clearly better than that. There's other instances too. Tristan Wirfs. I mean, honestly, it's good. It happens every year, and we have this conversation every year. I mean, Baker Mayfield was even pretty high than I would have him. Honestly, I think he was like 79 or something. I would tone it down a bit, but it's just what you get when you get a players list, and it's always going to be subjective. And I just hope that Terry McLaurin, and I do think that he, because looking at Ryan Fitzpatrick, man, I mean, in any other year, he wouldn't be an upgrade, but seeing what we had at QB last year, we can say he's a pretty safe upgrade. So as long as they maintain that chemistry they've had in camp, I think Terry can have another productive year. And he's got the athleticism. He's got the attention to detail. I know he worked out with Doug Baldwin, of all people, this offseason. So That's pretty exciting. And if he can realize his upside with that, I think he should be safely on the list next year. But you never know, man. I mean, we expected him to be on this year. And then Corey Davis and Jarvis Landry, those are the two egregious ones, I think. Jarvis Landry, not even the best receiver on his own team with Odell Beckham. So honestly, it was tough to see. It's tough to see, but you can't put too much stock in it because it is a subjective list with a bunch of players who, have their own inherent biases. So, even though they're students of the game and players of the game, they're not perfect in that respect. So I just hope he gets there next year. If he can earn it, he's there.
Yeah, no, I agree. And if you listen to the cornerbacks that have covered Terry throughout his 2 years here or in the league, they all say that he's one of the up and coming guys, one of the top route runners, best hands, got the top end speed. So like you said, he deserves to be on the list, but it is what it is. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned Fitzpatrick sticking with the offense. They just activated Curtis Samuel off the pup coming back from the groin injury that he had. What do you kind of expect from this offense going into the season? I know everyone expects the defense to be, top 5, top 10 at least. This offense has been at the bottom of the league for the past year or two. So do you think Fitzpatrick can kind of get the middle of the pack and maybe get some more wins under the belt for this team?
Yeah, I absolutely do. Because you look at last year, I mean, there were times when, with Dwayne Haskins and Alex Smith, where the offense was literally just incapable of operating correctly, Like there were times when Haskins couldn't operate effectively. There were times with Smith, for different reasons. For Haskins, it was more things weren't really clicking. For Smith, it's because his leg made him so uncomfortable at times that the offense just couldn't operate at the rate it should have. With Ryan Fitzpatrick, I mean, he's Fitzpatrick. You're going to get magic and tragic at times, but at the same time, he's a veteran. He's pretty savvy. He's experienced. And as we've seen, he's gained a little bit of chemistry pretty early on. So I think we can expect better things, especially, with the upgraded quarterback. But even beyond that, I think the offensive line is looking pretty good. Samuel Cosme, he's going to have some learning experiences too, but I thought he showed a little bit of progression in his first preseason appearance. I thought he had some good reps, which was promising for an athlete who largely won with his traits in college, but now he's trying to, refine his game a little bit. I liked what I saw from him. And then the receiving core too, man. I mean, Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, as you mentioned, and a very versatile piece. Scott Turner's familiar with him. He knows how to use him. I think he's going to be very fun. And then Diami Brown, too. I was very, very happy when we got him in round 3. And some of my guys, I know Nathan Coleman at FPC Washington, he was very happy to get him, too. Yeah. But Diami, man, I mean, he's exciting. He's explosive. Got a lot of fun releases off the line. He's good on slants. He's pretty good run after catch threat, but just downfield, too, has the body control. The only thing that I really thought was maybe refine his route running, maybe shore up his hands because he did have some focus drops on tape, but the athletic traits are all there for him to be another very explosive catalyst for this offense. And with Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel and Logan Thomas drawing all that attention, it's a lot of mouths to feed and a lot more weapons than we had last year. Even Cam Sims, I mean, coming into that, you have depth in your weapons core this year. That's something we didn't have last year. And I feel like you also have more top end talent. So I think we can expect big things. And I didn't even mention Antonio Gibson. All these weapons spreading out the field. You get a 4 wide receiver set in there, spread out the defense. Antonio Gibson has a lot of space to work with, and he's very good in space. So I'm very excited, man. I think there's a lot more possibilities for the offense this year. They were extremely limited last year. So it's going to be nice to see the training wheels taken off, and hopefully they can complement this defense. And if they can, this team can go pretty far.
Yeah, and speaking of the running back room, the MVP of the game on Friday was Jaret Patterson. In the passing game and in the running game, did really, really well. He was an undrafted free agent there, Ian. What did we miss on film, and are you surprised at all with his production so far? Do you think that he can make the 53 and be an impact this season?
I'm not surprised by the production. I mean, I can understand why he was undrafted too. He's like 5'6.5", so he's pretty small. But he's an Energizer bunny out there, man. And like you see his tape in college. There was one game, I don't know if you guys know this. There was one game where he had over 400 yards and 8 touchdowns. I think in one game. So like he's a high effort guy. He's always going to give 100%. And as we saw yesterday, or in preseason, not yesterday. It feels like it was yesterday because Tom's falling so fast. But he's going to give all that effort. He's not a great athlete for his size, but he's just very good. He has surprising contact balance for how small he is. You wouldn't expect that. But he can break tackles. He can drag guys, and he also has some receiving utility, which I didn't expect. I wanted to see a little more from that after watching his tape, but then in preseason week 1, he has that diving catch coming back toward the ball. If he can show that receiving utility too, I think that really increases his chances of making the roster because of that. I don't think he's quite as dynamic as Darren Sproles. I know that's the comp that Ron Rivera had for him, but he is, in a sense that, it looks like he's going to have some of that 3-down ability, and it looks like he's going to have some of that catalyst, that kind of change of pace back ability for this running back room. I know they released Lamar Miller, which might have been a vote of confidence for Jaret Patterson and giving him the chance to kind of earn that spot. So, and especially at running back, it's a pretty, I hate to say this because it does still have value. You see people say running backs don't matter. That's not true. They do matter. It is a little bit more replaceable of a skill set. And if you have a guy like Jaret Patterson who has that high effort, who's always going to give 100%, who's kind of that energetic runner, then he's going to get in there and he's going to have a role. I think he's going to be able to earn it. He still needs to put together some consistent performances in week 2 and week 3 for sure. But, he has the energy, he has the contact balance, and he's enough of an athlete. Like I said, he wasn't an elite athlete, but he has enough explosiveness in the short ranges to be, serviceable. So I'm excited to see what he does, and, keeping him behind Gibson and McKissick, he can be another very valuable piece for this offense.
Yeah, I mean, he's exciting to watch. Let's just call it what it is. If you score 8 touchdowns in a college game, you're going to be exciting to watch.
Yeah.
But that does, lend itself to Lamar Miller being cut and Kelvin Harmon. So what kind of led to those two being the ones cut? I mean, I guess Patterson is for Lamar Miller, but where do you see those two in particular fitting in? Like, where do they go?
I don't know, man. Lamar Miller in particular. I mean, he was a veteran. He was getting older. So that always happens with older running backs. Sometimes they just have too much wear on their tires, and like your athleticism is such a big part of that. So you lose a little bit of that. I know he's had some injuries too, so maybe that sapped him a little bit. So it is what it is. That's kind of the way it goes for them. In terms of Kelvin Harmon, man, that was tough because I know a lot of draft guys had him rated pretty highly. And then everyone was excited when we got him in round 6, I think. And then he had a decent rookie year, but then had that injury last offseason and now gets cut. And reports were saying that he was having a pretty good camp. So I was a little surprised by it for sure. I can see it too, because when you have the injury, it's tough to come back from. And at the same time, him in college, he was not a good separator, like you could like him as a draft evaluator, but even you had to admit he was not good at separating. His main mode was the contested catch. He's an alpha for sure. He has that play strength. He has that body control. He can get in there and beat you if you're a smaller defensive back 95% of the time. But, if you can't separate, in the NFL, where defensive backs are more athletic, they have more closing speed, they're longer, they're chippier, they're stronger. It's not as easy for those pure alphas, those pure contested catch guys to succeed. And so you really have to be able to separate. We saw that with Terry. I mean, one of the reasons that he succeeded right off the bat was because he had those natural traits to separate, so you really need that. If that's your main mode, if that's your only mode, then it's going to be a problem. And so I guess with Kelvin Harmon, maybe that played a role into it. But again, with the injury too, you come back from the injury, it's even harder to try and refine your separation ability. So it was a tough circumstances for him. I do hope he gets another chance. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, are the extended practice squad rules staying for this year? I'm not.
Yes.
Up
to 15, yes.
That's good. Because that means he can catch on somewhere, maybe get another practice squad spot and stay on. So I really liked that rule change last year. There's so many talented guys that come out every year. I mean, to have it 15 spots instead of 10 gives you a lot more flexibility and gives people a chance to stick around. So I think Kelvin Harmon will get a chance somewhere. It's just a matter of where. And it's probably going to be a practice spot, and he's going to have to work his way up again. But, judging from his college tape, and his work ethic, shouldn't be a problem. He should get another chance. I hope he does. But for Washington, you also have to accept that's kind of how it happened. You come back from an injury, it's tough. It's a business, and obviously the receiver room is deeper now, so it was always going to be an uphill battle for him.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was actually a big Kelvin Harmon guy. I kind of wanted to see them keep him over AGG. I know AGG was a 4th-round guy.
They're kind of similar guys.
Yeah, exactly. Similar guys. So maybe they want to give him another chance since Rivera's the ones that drafted him. But speaking of draft, over the past couple of drafts, Washington's really hit on these 3rd-round picks. You got Terry, Antonio Gibson. It looks like De'Ami Brown's going to be a contributor for this offense this year. And then they take Benjamin St. Juste with the 3rd round as well. What do you kind of see him contributing to this defense this year? And do you see him being can you see him being an outside corner going forward?
Yeah. I'm glad you brought him up because I wanted to talk about him because I'll be honest, draft night, I was writing the article for Rigo's Rag and I was like, I'm not so sure about this pick. I mean, but then a few days, it marinated, it came back to me and I was like, you know what? I kind of like this pick actually. So I got to see him at the Senior Bowl and he's obviously 6'3", 205. I think he's really long, really physical. He's a fun guy. I mean, his athletic profile is kind of weird. He doesn't have top end speed quite. He has good speed, not like elite speed. He's got decent explosiveness, but really the best thing about it is his fluidity. You know, he can change directions really well for his size. And then you look at his size, 6'3", 205. He can press guys at the line, and that's kind of what his MO is. You know, he's physical. Really, he gets in your face. He's a good press corner, and I think that's what Washington's going to use him as. So, you know, thinking about what they're going to use him as, I'm very excited. I know he's been getting a little bit of run with the first team, which is pretty exciting. They're moving Kendall Fuller into the slot on some plays, which I really like. Utilizing Kendall Fuller's versatility, you can move him back to free safety too, because back with the Chiefs, some of his best reps were free safety. So exciting to kind of move him around and utilize the full palette of his upside. But then St. Juice kind of frees him up. But then on top of that, St. Juice himself, you know, him and William Jackson are both pretty good press corners. So your defensive line gets pressure right off the bat, kind of slows up the quarterback. And if your corners on the outside are getting press coverage and are jamming those receivers and delaying their releases, that makes the quarterback even more uncomfortable because he doesn't have anyone open. And then the rush is closing in on him. You know, it's kind of that symbiotic relationship that coverage and pass rush has. And I really like trying to use St. Juice and Jackson to kind of embolden that. And then having this pass rush get pressure so quickly, it could be a suffocating equation for opposing offenses. So I'm excited to see it. Obviously, I think he's a rookie, so there's going to be kind of learning moments as there always are. But, you know, being able to press guys at the line, sometimes all that extra second is all that the edge rush needs to get to the quarterback. And, you know, you guys know better than anyone, having Montez Sweat, Chase Young, Ioannidis coming back, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, and then even the late round rookies, you know, might be able to get some rotational reps in there and provide value. So having all those pieces on the defensive line, you know, they're going to get pressure a lot. And having the corners getting pressed on the outside and delaying those releases, it could be a very good thing. So I'm excited to see St. Juste in particular fulfilling that role. It looks like he's going to be asked a lot from early. So I'm excited to see what he does.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just alluded to them. But to wrap this up, Ian, I'm going to have two questions for you. I'm going to ask the first one. Shaka Toney and Will Bradley King, what do they bring to this defense? And do you think that they will bring enough to the table in relief of Chase Young and Montez Sweat?
Yeah, I do think they will. Bradley King in particular was one that I was pretty high on, and I think he fits the defense a little bit better. Shaka Toney, his deal is he's a little undersized. I thought he would fit better in a 3-4 OLB, you know, and as you know, Washington's moved to a 4-3. They were 3-4 a few years ago, but they moved to 4-3. But Bradley King is interesting. I'm looking at his RAS right now, around 6'4", 252, had a 4.79, 34.5-inch vertical. So he's pretty explosive. And I was looking at him at the Senior Bowl. He was one of the guys who stood out for me. He's a high motor guy. The big thing, and he has good proportional length. The big thing was just kind of refining his tool set. But the physical tools are all there for him to be a good change of pace guy in this edge rushing core. And then Shaka Toney too. He's another elite athlete, really good explosiveness, really good speed. And you know that Penn State athletic training program, it's one of the best. I mean, Jason Owa, or Odafe Owa, the Ravens first round pick is what he goes by now, but he had like a 4.34 at 6'5", 260. So those guys are insane athletes, every one of them. And Shaka Toney is no exception. Really, really good off the line, really quick off the line, and can generate displacement pretty quickly that way against slower offensive linemen. You know, but the size is going to be an issue too. I mean, he doesn't quite have the same power that other guys do. He doesn't quite have the same leverage with his length. So that's going to be an issue. But I do really like him as a bit more of a finesse rusher. But he's got good explosiveness. He's got good bend too. So I think that those guys, both of them, you know, the athletic traits are there. Again, it's going to be refinement, you know, because they were late round picks for a reason. There's going to be a need for refinement. But, you know, if you're going to pick anyone in the late rounds, pick someone with a high physical foundation that you can build off of, you know, that because that way, like if you pick a guy who doesn't really have any really top end athletic traits, there's not as much of a runway for development. And, you know, he might max out early. He might never provide what you want him to. These guys, they have that athletic upside, and they have, most importantly, the comfort of a stacked depth chart. They can kind of build. They don't have a lot of pressure early on. So I do like seeing them in there. And I do think that, early on, I know James Smith-Williams is in there too, and he's been getting a few good plays. And so they'll have him too, he can provide reps while they're kind of learning. And, I think maybe a few weeks into the season, we can start to see them rotate in. I think they can provide some good value as depth guys, especially after losing Ryan Kerrigan. That's something we definitely need. I don't think they're going to replace him right away, but I do think they have the athletic traits to eventually kind of fill that role and be solid depth guys behind the starters.
Now, rapid fire, just a last question for you. Dax Milne, Coach Rivera actually talked about him in his presser today. He's impressing. Zach Selby had a article released today on Dax Milne. I thought he had a great game on Friday, and he's pulled together a couple great practices. Do you think Dax Milne can make the 53?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember Trey Quinn mania back there.
Yeah. Who could forget that?
Exactly. Who could forget that, right? I mean, Dax Milne could be what we wanted Trey Quinn to be. That late round guy who's going to be a good utility guy, versatile. You look at his tape at BYU. I think he plays faster than his athletic measurements lead on. He's a pretty good route runner. He's pretty tough in contested situations. Has some body control, good ball tracking ability. Just all around utility. And he was a big reason why Zach Wilson broke out. He was one of his top receivers. And, you look at Zach Wilson, his style was kind of that backyard style of football. He's going to roll out, he's going to toss one deep, and he's going to let you try and make a play one-on-one against the defensive back. And Dax Milne, he's not the biggest guy. He's not the most athletic, but, he can make those plays. And so he's a very good utility guy. I think that, I don't think we'll see him as much with the first team as the season goes on, but I think we can rotate him in. I do expect him to make the roster after seeing that strong preseason game. And after hearing the reports, man, it looks like he's been kind of taking advantage of this opportunity. So it's going to be tough because, you got Terry, you got Curtis, you got Diami, you got Cam Sims.
Adam Humphries.
So, they're going to have to cut someone they don't want to cut.
Right.
And maybe AGG kind of falls out in that scenario. But I do think it's going to be tough, especially you look at the regime. He's their latest draft pick, and if he's giving a stronger impression right now than AGG is after 1 year, that kind of spells doubt over AGG. And I think that Dax Milne has a skill set. He can separate a little better. If he has that toughness at the catch point, it's really not a conversation. You kind of have to go with him. And maybe you can get AGG back on the practice squad because a lot of teams do tend to gravitate toward their own players. So that's kind of the silver lining. You might be able to cut him, get him back on the practice squad, and rotate him in because you can do that now. But I do think Dax Milne has made a very strong impression, and he has enough athleticism. I think he ran a 4.57, so he has decent speed. And then again, a lot of the executional parts of his game are pretty strong. So I like what I've seen from him, and he's a good guy to have behind all your playmakers for sure.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. Ian, I can't thank you enough for joining us. Our listeners, where can they find you on Twitter and any other social media sites where they can find your work?
Yes, you can follow me on Twitter at Ian_Cummings_9. Right now, just kind of writing draft profiles for Pro Football Network. They're at PFN365, so you can follow them. When draft season comes around next time, I'll have a lot of good evergreen stuff for you guys to check out. But also, check out Rigo's Rag too. I'm not there anymore, but a lot of the guys there have a lot of respect for those guys. And Jerry, he's the new editor that's kind of filled in for me. They got a good thing going there for sure. They're always bringing Washington football team content. So shoot a follow their way too. Rigo's Rag of the Fan-Sided Network.
Thank you so much, Ian. You brought some great analysis for us, sir. I can't wait to have you on again. Can't thank you enough for joining us, sir. Hope you have a great one.
Yeah, you too. I'll catch you guys later.
All right, Ian. You have a good night. All right, everybody. We just spoke with Ian Cummings. That was great. He was phenomenal.
Yeah, a lot of information he's giving out. I like that.
And
he definitely has insight. I love it.
And I love what he had to say about Jaret Patterson because he is spot on, dude. Spot freaking on. So we're going to be joined by our next guest, Wizskins, here very, very shortly. In the meantime, let's go through our fan questions. And the first one we're going to do is from our boy Brandon Reinbold, Meese21. He sent this question in via our Discord chat server where you could come and join chat with us at any time. His first question is, and I'm going to start with you, Todd.
All right.
What is Curtis Samuel's fantasy value this season?
Ooh, I mean, that's a pretty good question. He's very clearly going to be mid-round. I don't know. If he's sitting there in the 6th or 7th round, you take him, right? Immediately. I don't want to reach for him. He's not going to be a top 3-round pick, but if he's overlooked for a little while, I would take him 4th round, 5th round.
I'm not sure if he's going to be worth the wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, maybe your flex spot in PPR formats. The one thing I like about Curtis Samuel is that he's going to get opportunities through the run game. And that's going to be able to spell, red zone opportunities, stuff like that. Because the question I'm having is Adam Humphries going to have more PPR value than Curtis Samuel, given the fact that he's going to be used in the run game? So with Curtis Samuel, I would say probably you're going to be targeting the 7th to 8th round. You're looking for that wide receiver you could place in your flex. It's going to get lots of targets. I think Curtis Samuel could be that guy. What about you, Hall?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think between 6 and 10, he should go off the board. Like you said, he's not going to be your wide receiver 2. He might not even be your flex, but he's definitely a good guy to keep on your bench in case of an injury. In case of, a guy like Curtis Samuel, he plays in stretches where he might have a down week 1 week, then he'll have a burst of 2, 3, 4 weeks where he's over 100 yards total, a touchdown or 2 in the game. So he's definitely a guy that can get you through a couple stretch of games, maybe even win you a game or 2 throughout the season. Yeah. But as far as where he would go in the draft, I would say start looking around the 6th, 7th round for him to go off the board.
Yep, stealing my rounds, Hall. Now the next one is Jaret Patterson.
Great minds think alike.
That's not true. Now here for Jaret Patterson, Meast wants to know: does he have any value in fantasy? Maybe will he have a value around mid-season? What do you think of that, Hall?
In the great words of Skip Bayless to Jenny Taft, no. Nah, but seriously, I mean he's just too low of a tier player. You might get a random touchdown out of him here throughout the season here and there, kind of like the Peyton Barber thing where he might steal a touchdown from you at the goal line from Gibson. But the only way you can see him getting any type of value is obviously he has to make the 53-man roster or the practice squad. But also maybe if a guy like Gibson goes down throughout the season, I know he's battling the turf toe, even though most say it's not really a problem, but say that flares up again at some point, or maybe a guy like J.D. McKissick goes down at some point, maybe you elevate Patterson to that kind of change of pace, catch out the backfield guy. But as far as fantasy, I would definitely – he's a waiver wire guy where if you're desperate, you pick him up and kind of just stash him away just in case of emergency.
Yeah, I agree with you there. With Jaret Patterson, I do think that his value most likely would be around mid-season. The big question is that I have, could he have that kind of Peyton Barber value in fantasy where on a flyer you need that running back points and Jaret Patterson could maybe take over Peyton Barber as that third running back there and be getting the goal line situations, short yardage. So maybe he does have value in those touchdowns. But like you said, Hall, I think it is more probably towards midseason. It's going to be a long season, 17 games, unprecedented. They're going to need a lot of workhorses. And Antonio Gibson, the way it's looking, is going to be getting a lot of time on the field. So you're going to need some help there. So I definitely think Jaret Patterson is going to have value, but it's not going to be until it's going to be undrafted, maybe 17th. 16th round, you know what I mean? But that would be a smart flyer for guys that just need some value there and you're stashing on your bench.
He's definitely going to get picked up at some point in the season, and you're going to have him on your bench, and he's going to go off for one game, and he's going to be the player this season that you're like, why didn't I play him? And he's just sitting there, and he could have won you a game, but you didn't play him because who knew?
Yeah, it's true. That's true, exactly what's going to happen. That's usually what happens with Deshaun Jackson whenever I don't draft him right.
You know what? It's sad. Deshaun's been good for 2 games a season forever, and you just have to pick their game right.
Dude, that's exactly right. Whenever he's playing the Giants or a divisional rival, apparently. Now, our next question from Brandon is, there's a lot of people questioning Bryce McCain and that he could possibly make the team. Brandon wants to know why. He thought Bobby McCain was an upgrade to the safety position, especially free safety there. So what do you think, Todd? Do you think that McCain is possibly not going to be able to make this team?
I mean, to be completely honest with you, I haven't watched a whole lot on McCain. Unfortunately, with 3 jobs, I haven't been able to see him too much in action.
He's a rotational guy that he started out in the slot. He has experience playing at safety too. Miami moved him all the way around.
Right.
And so we brought him in to basically do both.
Hopefully he can at least give some competition. Let's just call it what it is. If he's just going to be rotational, that's great. Add some depth. Let's see what he has. Friday is going to be a good time to kind of show that off.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I do think he'll make the 53 because the one positive that he has is that he can play nickel corner and he can play safety. When you're looking at the depth chart and the 53 and who's going to be able to make this team, you're really going to have that positional flexibility along the offensive line and DBs, because I truly believe that offenses are going to be thinning us out this year. So you're going to have a lot of empty sets, a lot of strong wide receiver sets. You're going to have a lot of skinny guys out there. And a guy like Bobby McCain, who has experience in the slot and at safety, can really pay dividends in those situations, in my personal opinion. So I do think he'll make the 53.
Yeah, I think he's going to make the 53. Like you said, Coach Rivera has been preaching versatility since he's came here, since he got the job. And Bobby McCain's definitely one of those guys, like you said, started off in the slot, had a pretty good showing in the slot. They moved him to free safety. He's back there making plays at free safety for Miami last year. So I definitely think he can be a rotational guy. And you hit it right on the head, Kyle, where I think a lot of these teams on offense are going to try to spread us out because we're so fast on offense. They're just going to try to spread us out, spread us thin in the middle, and kind of work the middle of the field, because that's kind of been the killer for this defense over the past God knows how many years has been the killer. But I definitely think, like you said, with them putting out 3 receiver sets, four wide receiver sets, you're going to need more DBs on the field. When you got the tight ends, the Travis Kelce's of the world, the Zach Ertz of the world, the Dallas Goederts, you're going to need a guy like Bobby McCain that can kind of run with them and kind of play them close to the hip. So definitely think he makes the 53, and I definitely think that he'll be a contributor, not like a Cam Curl or like a DeShazer Everett type impact, but I definitely think that he'll flash off the screen in a couple games this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. Maybe some opportunistic turnovers or something, just product of the defensive line and the pressure. Now, Brandon's last question for us is, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is Reed's writing / commentary at? Basically, what he means, Reed is doing our blogs for us, and he's doing his 10-part series on the Washington football team Dumpster Files. So Brandon wants to know, what do you rank his writing at so far? Because since we're 5 parts in, what do you think, Todd? 1 out of 10.
I mean, I got to give him a strong 10 because I want everyone to – I'm sorry. I want everyone to listen to it. Yeah, go read it all. And it's Reed. It's hilarious. It's a 10.
Yes, Reed is definitely – I'm not going to say 10. He still has room to improve. But I will say it's like a 7 or 8, dude. He's doing a great job. He really has surpassed expectations. I did not think that was going to be the case for him, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, he wasn't giving himself – oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, he did surprise me a lot because I thought he had an elementary school level of education. So.
He wasn't giving himself enough credit. I'll definitely give it an 8. It's a good read, hilarious, good insight onto the team over these past couple of years. So we're halfway through it. Got to get the rest of the other 5 parts.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we are joined by very special guest and friend on Twitter, Wizzy F. Baby, what's going on, brother?
Yo. What's up, man? Can you hear me just fine?
Yes,
Joining
sir.
You a little late.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yes, sir. I can hear you just fine. And so what we're going to do, Wizzy, is you're going to stick around with us for this show. So what we're doing is we're breaking down all of our fan questions and just answering them straight up. So we're going to go in a circle here. All right, so the one question I have is going to start with you, Wizzy. Tony Shivers asked, the NFC West looks stacked on paper. Who's going to win the division?
Who's going to win the NFC West? That's a question I really haven't thought about too much.
It's a tricky one. Tony asks really good questions, man.
Yeah, that's a nice question, Tony. If I had to say so, to me, I'm going to go with Seahawks. I'm a big Russell fan, and I think besides them not having protection for him, I think they are the most solid team that can come back and get it done. I mean, I know the Rams are a sexy pick, but with Cam Akers' injury and that O-line being in question, I'm just not sure about the Rams. I like the Cardinals, but I still need to see it to believe it. And I'm down on the 49ers this year.
Hey, I'm all about it, dude. You and I are the same way, especially with the 49ers. Todd, do you agree with Wizzy that Seattle would be the favorite to win the NFC West right now?
I mean, yeah, I think that's where I would put money. I know, I was just kind of looking up the lines, and Los Angeles right now is the Vegas favorite.
Mm-hmm.
They're plus 180, and they got Seahawks at plus 240. I like to throw a little money down every now and then, and I think Seattle's
both, brother. You and me both.
Did you put your money on Washington yet this year?
Oh, I'm going to.
Oh, I have.
I'm going to.
But no, I think Seattle, as long as they have Russell Wilson back there, you can't count out that team because he's just productive. He's smart. He's athletic. Yes, he's getting older, but that team is good enough to kind of overcome that age. And I think that they have a great chance to make it out of the West.
Yeah, that's great, dude. I really do think Arizona Cardinals have the capability of getting it done. They have really upgraded their defense in areas that they needed to by adding J.J. Watt, Zaven Collins there. Now, Jordan Hicks really doesn't have a position. So I do think that with Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, A.J. Green getting added into the mix with Larry Fitz, I think that is a very well-built football team with Budda Baker in the back end. I would not be surprised to see them wheel this thing out somehow, some way. What about you, Hall?
I am going with the slim long shot odds. I'm going to 49ers. I think they're going to have a bounce back year this year. If you look at what they had happened to them last year, they were injury. They were kind of look like us over the past 2 years.
Yeah.
Injuries all across the board, like from top to bottom, like stars to like rotational players that came in were getting injured. The backups are coming in getting injured. The quarterback situation was in flux with Jimmy G being out, and Jimmy G's proven the show. When he's with Kyle Shanahan, when he's in the game, he's not injured, he's a winner. The only time they really lose games is when he's not really in the game, other than the Super Bowl, obviously. But I like
That's a key one there.
Yeah, I like Nick Bosa coming back on that defense. He's going to be a killer. I like that D line. Kyle Shanahan's obviously one of the top 5, top 6 coaches in the league right now. Great offensive guy. They got a great run game. I like the receivers that they got out there. And I just look for Jimmy Garoppolo to have a bounce back, kind of playing for that new contract going into next year. And I think they can steal this division.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a really good assessment. Now, our next question, thank you, Tony, that was awesome, is from Scott Hartley, the Inquirer from the UK. Oi! His question for us, I'm going to start this one with you, Wizzy. With cuts underway and one preseason game in the books, what positional groups or individuals are starting to worry you? For Scott, his is William Jackson III. He's hoping that he shows more. What do you think?
I feel pretty comfortable with William Jackson, but if I had to pick a position group I'm starting to worry about, it would be tight end.
Okay.
I love Logan, of course. I think that's amazing, and I think I like the progress that Samus is making. But I like that as a blocker. So my concern would be if God forbid something happened to Logan, who would be the guy that steps up and be that next tight end? And I guess it would be on Bates maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really happy with was Hemingway, and I wasn't.
Yeah, Hemingway looked really bad. Yeah. He's in concussion protocol at the moment. Yeah.
He looks like he's been in concussion protocol for about a week now. So, and then Seals Jones, he hasn't really done anything to kind of really step out.
Yeah.
There's still time left, so the night is still young, and he might do that. But we would need that. So I'll be on the lookout to see who other teams cut, and to see if maybe we bring someone else in at the last minute. But I'm concerned with that.
And that's a really smart one there, Wizzy, for having tight end. Do you agree with him, Todd, that the one positional group that you're worried about at the moment is tight end?
I mean, that's one of the positional groups. And that's tight end it's thin. Like, call it what it is. But I have faith in Logan Thomas this year. Like, I think he's going to do it. To me, my biggest worry right now is Dustin Hopkins. I mean, he went out there and missed 2. And I know I saw JP Finley or somebody tweet out earlier today that practice today, they had lots of kicking and he made them all. And I love Hopkins. Like, I really do. But if you can't make the kicks when it counts, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So it might just be time to start looking in another direction. And I hate saying that because I hate running kickers out of town. But you got one job.
Yeah. For me, Scott, it's the pass rusher position. Only because what's behind our 2 guys. I trust James Smith-Williams. I think his coaching staff has him up and running and ready to go as a backup rusher. But besides that, can we really depend on Casey Toohill? Can Shaka Toney, Will Bradley King come off the bench and do well enough in these pivotal, important situations? And that's what I am worried about somewhat, because if we get nicked up with Montez or Chase and they have to sit out a couple games, there's going to be a really bad situation that we're going to be facing, to be perfectly honest, because that's the strength of our team. And losing that could be huge. What about you, Hall?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the linebackers, but with a little caveat, because we just had Ian Cummings on. Jamin Davis is going to be some learning experiences, some growing pains with him. And playing behind his defensive line, it should make it a little more clear as the season goes along. But, again, you got guys like Cole Holcomb, who's having a great camp, had a great first preseason. I think he's going to have a good year this year. Like I said, Jamin Davis, still a rookie, still learning, still growing. So I expect him by like midseason to be kind of assimilated in good, I guess, Washington defense form. And then in the third linebacker, you got John Bostic, who is still a liability if you put him in pass coverage against tight ends and running backs. So I think you got a guy like Khaleke Hudson. We see what he can do, see if he can kind of come in and contribute. But hopefully Landon Collins can kind of step in the box and kind of free things up for Bostic to make him play a little bit freer. But if I had to pick a group, I'd have to go with the linebackers simply because, look, Ron Rivera called them out last year, and obviously they've improved a little bit, but there's still some room to grow.
I should not have started with that because we have two other questions here that you guys all basically answered with Hall and Wizzy. But let's go to our guy, Orange Crush 92. He has fantasy-based questions for us, so I'm sure we're all used to fantasy. I know, Wizzy, I know you started your fantasy football team league that you're having starting this year. So his first question to us is, what do you make of what's going on in Indy's running back situation? A.J. Schulte was talking about Nyheim Hines maybe the player of choice in later rounds of the draft. Orange Crush sees Marlon Mack now is back from his Achilles injury and is second on the depth chart. How do you see that, Wizzy? Do you think that A.J. Schulte's right and Nyheim Hines is the guy you should be targeting late rounds, or is Orange Crush right and it's Marlon Mack?
That's the coach situation is pretty muddy, and I've typically in the drafts I've done stayed away from almost all of them. But if I had to pick one, I would say I like Nyheim a little bit more. You know, I think he's a little bit more explosive and adds a slightly different dynamic that I think the coach would definitely try to lean on now, especially with the muddy situation at quarterback. So I think they definitely want to try to give the ball into playmakers' hands. So with that being said, if I had to lean one way, I would go with Nyheim.
Yeah, and that would make a lot of sense, especially with the passing game there. What about you, Hall? Do you agree with A.J. Schulte that it should be Nyheim Hines as the late-round pick?
Yeah, Nyheim Hines is a guy that we were kind of talking about, like Curtis Samuel's, like what kind of value does he add? He's kind of one of those guys where he's not going to give you crazy value and crazy points every week, but he'll have that 2 or 3, 4 game stretch where he's going out for like 50 yards rushing, 80 yards receiving, and for a couple catches, maybe a touchdown or two here and there. Mm-hmm. And he's definitely that change of pace guy outside of Jonathan Taylor. And if you go back to like towards the end of the season last year, they were kind of given like a 3-split share between like Mack, Hines, and Jonathan Taylor, even though Jonathan Taylor was kind of like the dominant guy. But I would definitely agree with Hines being the guy, only because I'm a big Marlon Mack guy, but coming off the injury, especially at the running back position, I feel like it's kind of going to take some time to kind of work his way back.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I love Marlon Mack. If he wasn't coming off an injury, that would be the pick for me. But that Achilles, it's tricky, man. We saw with Junior Gillette blowing both of his Achilles injury tendons. And then Landon seems like a freak of nature being able to come back from his Achilles. That's what worries me with Marlon Mack. But if I were like to say, if Jonathan Taylor got injured, which running back would I more likely go with to be able to carry my fantasy team? It is Marlon Mack because Nyheim Hines is predominantly pass catching. But just for this instance, I think A.J. Schulte is right because of the injury concerns with Marlon Mack. But I would not be surprised if Mack somehow comes out blowing up and oversees him. What about you, Todd? Any differences?
I mean, really, I looked up their average draft position, and they're 6 picks away from each other on average.
Oh, okay.
So it sounds like everyone else is just as confused and going through the mud as all of us. So you're looking at 6 one way, half a dozen the other. Personally, I like Mack. The injury concern is there, and especially a running back coming back from injury always is just kind of scary to pick up. So I might go Hines. Luckily enough, in my drafts, I haven't had to touch either one of them. So
that's a great one. Now, his next question for us, there's like multiple questions branching off of this, but this is the question I have been waiting to receive from you guys. And Orange Crush came through for me. So I'm going to start this one for you, Wizzy, okay? Mm-hmm. Where and when would you draft Kyle Pitts and why?
So I just drafted Kyle Pitts in my last mock draft that I did. And I mean, if anyone knows me, I'm a heavy running back fantasy guy. So I think I picked Pitt.
I think he just cut out on us. I think he did. It's fine. What about you, Hall? What are you doing with Pitts?
Man, with Julio being gone, he's definitely steps in kind of that Calvin Ridley type role where he's the number 2 guy now. Calvin Ridley obviously being the number 1 guy now. Also, I think Calvin Ridley's about to have a huge year. Kyle Pitts, I would go probably like depending on like how the draft rolls out, but I'd say start looking at him really like third, like late second, early third, maybe the 4th round if he somehow slips to there, but I don't see that happening. But second or third round for me is where he should probably be looking to draft him at because, like I said, he'll be the number 2 guy behind Calvin Ridley. With Calvin Ridley kind of getting that Julio Jones coverage now, it's going to open up the field for a guy like Kyle Pitts. And you see what Calvin Ridley did when he was the number 2 guy with Atlanta. And you got a guy like Arthur Smith who calls great plays, calls great concepts, great routes for his receivers, gets them open. So, yeah, look for Kyle Pitts and, like I said, Calvin Ridley have a huge years.
Yeah, for me, dude, I'm all over Kyle Pitts, Orange Crush. I was all over him in the draft. I think this is the perfect situation for him. If Julio was still there, I would say he was probably going to be a 5th to 6th rounder. But now, with Julio gone, I think he's a 3rd rounder. And what's perfect for Kyle Pitts is the fact that Calvin Ridley is there. Teams cannot predominantly just stare at Kyle Pitts because Calvin Ridley's on the other side. Vice versa. They're going to help each other out. And then look at their running game, Orange Crush. They have Mike Davis as their starting running back. It's not a barn burner by any stretch. Arthur Smith coming from Tennessee with A.J. Brown and Corey Davis really extending the ball down the field. I think Kyle Pitts is going to play himself into a top 12 pick next season. I really do believe that. He's a 3rd round pick. I'm all over it. Wizzy, do we have you back yet?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Sorry,
There
keep
he is.
going.
No, I was just saying I just drafted Kyle Pitts in the draft that I had about 2 days ago, and I got him in the 4th round.
Oh.
And that was great value to me. I said, if he's still there in the 4th, that's a no-brainer. So yeah, I picked him up in the 4th, but I'd get him in the 3rd. I think the 3rd to 4th is a good round to get him for all those reasons you just named.
Yeah, and not only on top of that, Matt Ryan, being able to get the ball at his hands a lot, he can distribute it with no issues at all. What about you, Todd?
I mean, I love it. I want to take him early. He's a number 2 receiver that you're putting at the tight end spot. So as far as fantasy goes, you just get that value right there. I mean, I got him right up there with Kelsey and Kittle as far as people that as tight ends that I want to draft. Because I mean, just call it what it is. He's gonna be the 2nd option on that team. It's not like a wide receiver 2 is their number 2.
Right.
It's Pitts. So take that extra value. It's it's there for you. Get him in the 3rd round, and especially if you have a dynasty or keeper league, that's someone that you're gonna want to hold on to that.
Yes. Now
Get that value there.
The next question, branching off of this, because it's staying with Kyle Pitts. So the next question: who can you compare Kyle Pitts to in fantasy for this season projected, Todd?
Oh my God.
Do you want me to start it because I have one? And then
if you got one, go for it.
You're probably gonna take mine.
Jimmy Graham in New Orleans. This makes a lot of sense with Drew Brees, the kind of older quarterback, getting a younger guy that knows that coming into the system is a matchup nightmare. He's going to get a bunch of heavy targets. I could see Kyle Pitts having the type of fantasy season that Jimmy Graham had in his come-to year with New Orleans. What about you, Wizzy?
That's a great one. I think I'm gonna have to steal that answer, and mainly because he's going to get a lot of those red zone threats,
right.
And I think that's when Jimmy, I had Jimmy that one year, and I knew when it got to the red zone, I'm like, throw it to Jimmy, and you knew they were looking for that mismatch, and that's what he is. He's that mismatch guy. I think Ridley's going to stretch the field for sure, but once you start getting in that 20-yard red zone area, he's going to put up some major touchdown numbers, I believe, this year. So I think the Jimmy Graham one is actually perfect.
Todd?
I was trying to look through real quick to just see different tight ends and how many touchdowns that they got because, in history. And I'm looking at names like Ingram and Shockey and Gronkowski and all these guys that put up big touchdown numbers in red zone because they're big, tall, athletic guys. Mm-hmm. And I think he could be in that kind of ranking. Like,
I'm 100% with you.
He's going to make plays. He's big. He's athletic. He's just got that size. He's got the hands. He's everything you want in a tight end, or everything you want in a wide receiver, but he's playing tight end. So, I mean, the sky's the limit for this kid.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. What about you, Hall?
Yeah, I think he can be what Derek Waller was to the Raiders last year.
Waller?
Darren Waller. Yeah, Darren Waller, that number 2 option opposite. Well, they didn't really have a number 1 receiver. I guess Henry Ruggs technically, but yeah, whatever. But I definitely think he'll be like high volume, high catch guy. Like y'all mentioned, the red zone. He's going to be a great jump ball, great 50-50 guy because he's just a mismatch nightmare. Linebackers can't run with him.
You can split him out. You split him out wide. You can't have a linebacker on him, and you can't have a corner on him.
Safeties can't jump with him. Yep. Corners, he's too big for cornerbacks. Like I said, linebackers can't run with him. So, yeah, I definitely think that he's going to be a high-volume guy. Like I said, he's the number 2 guy behind Calvin Ridley. And then I forgot a guy like Russell Gage who can also open up the middle of the field for a guy like Kyle Pitts. So, like I said, I think Darren Waller type year for Kyle Pitts.
Here's the only thing I'm going to say for Pitts real quick, just for his own sake. Jimmy Graham got screwed out of wide receiver money because he put tight end in his Twitter bio. He just needs to erase that and just be like the guy.
See, that's some quality, that's some quality advice right there. Now, the next fantasy question from Orange Crush to us, and Wizzy, I'm going to go to you to this. Who's going to net you more points in fantasy PPR formats? Adam Thielen or Justin Jefferson?
I'm going to say Thielen. I'm going to go with Thielen.
Really?
I feel safer with that. I mean, Justin had an explosive season, but for some reason, it's going to be hard to replicate. And I think Adam at least will get those volume catches. I mean, I for sure know that's a receiver. I'm not a big receiver guy in fantasy, but someone like him is someone I would feel safe with because I know they're going to get me production through in and through out at a consistent basis. So I would have to go with him. If you ask me.
That makes a lot of sense, dude. That was a really logical take on your part. And to getting those consistent targets, you're absolutely right. What about you, Hall? Do you agree that it's Thielen?
I do think I think Justin Jefferson is a better receiver, but I think Thielen's a better fantasy option, only for the simple fact of Wizzy kind of hit it on the head where Justin Jefferson kind of burst onto the scene last year, and everyone's like taking it back, like, oh man, I didn't know he's going to be like this. So now he's going to get all those double coverage. He's going to get all the rollover coverages. He's going to get all the bracket coverages. That's going to leave a guy like Adam Thielen kind of work the middle of the field, the intermediate stuff, and then he's a great double move guy. So once he starts working the middle of the field, the intermediate stuff, he's going to break it off for a corner route or like a double move, go deep on you, score some touchdowns. So, and I know he's having like injuries the past like year or two. So I think he's going to have a bounce back year and show everybody that he's still that top 15 guy in the league.
The only reason you didn't say Jefferson is because he's my 9th round keeper. I know that's why you didn't say it. No, you guys all made great points. You really did. But I do think it's Jefferson just because of the speed, the size, ability, and playmaking ability on top of that. The dude is just a baller. Kirk Cousins doesn't like to throw the ball up, and good for him because Justin Jefferson is one of the better route runners in the league that embarrasses people. And I think that he's going to continue to get those targets. The only reason I'm picking Jefferson right now is because you guys already picked Thielen, and Jefferson's injury the past week kind of concerns me just a little bit. So I will agree with you guys about Thielen, but I'll say it's Jefferson. Todd,
It's Jefferson. I'm sorry. You can say Thielen all you want. Jefferson's the better athlete. Jefferson's their playmaker. That's who they want the ball to. That's who's going to get it when it counts. He's going to get the touchdowns. Thielen will get the little dink and dunks that Kirk loves throwing. And then Jefferson will make bigger plays. He'll get the TDs. Sure, it's PPR. Thielen will get a couple extra points because of that. But at the end of the day, like, it's Jefferson. And that's the answer. That's who you want.
Yeah. And the last question from Orange Crush I want to get to, but we're running up against the clock here. But is Houston's running game? Phil Lindsay's listed as the number 1 running back on the depth chart. He said, do you like the plague, like the plague, or take your chances? Avoid like the plague or take your chances. And for me personally, I like Phil Lindsay a lot. I just don't know about David Johnson. But let's move on to our last question. This is a great one. This is from DCB Cost. He wants to know, what will FedEx Field play after scores this season? During the light show after practice at FedEx Field, it seemed like they tried to introduce a silly spell-out Washington kind of cheer. So, Wizzy, what do you think that they're going to play after scoring drives this season?
I'm not sure. I did hear that, the spell-out Washington cheer, and I have to say I was a fan. I liked it. I kind of was digging it, so I would be okay if they played that. At least for this year, until we change our name to the Wolves. But who knows?
Don't say that. Don't say that. So what about you, Todd? What do you think that they'll be doing after scoring drives?
I mean, I know that they've tried the Washington cheer before. They tried to do it too complicated too early, and it got dropped after like 3 weeks. So I think they'll definitely try and, try that again. I think you're going to hear a lot of House of Pain. I think you're going to hear some jump around. I've heard that the uppers like that, and that they just something about that song that they enjoy. So I think you're going to hear that.
It's a great song.
It is. I hope we hear it a lot. And then hopefully they bring back the band in some sort of capacity and we get some new fight song.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. For me, I do have a suggestion. All right. After every episode, right before I do the send-off, what's the saying I do, Hall? What's my saying, dude? Washington football. Woo!
Oh, woo! Yeah.
That could definitely be the end of the drive kind of saying that the whole stadium does. It's quick, it's easy. You're not going to annoy anybody with any type of song, anything like that. It could be quick and easy done. Everyone could get away with it, and everyone's happy.
The song's been awesome. Hold on. No, that's fine. But the song forever has been it's ingrained. You got to do a song. I'm sorry.
No, man. I don't know.
You didn't like the song?
Oh, I like the song. It's just like I hate that Philly has a song, and so I want to get away from Philly. Like that's the whole thing.
Congratulations to Philly for ripping us off. That's great.
That's a good point. But no.
Well, I think the fans are actually going to sing the old fight song whenever
they
teams score. But I think that I know you were saying that the Friday Night Lights.
Good point.
That is a good point. They were doing like a lot of like pyrotechnic stuff and stuff like that. So maybe they'll have like a bunch of flames shooting from somewhere or something like that, But
that's a good point.
That's a great point, Hall. No, those are great ones because honestly, I don't really know what they could do. Because like the one thing, Todd, is like I don't want it to be forced. Like yes, they could make a new song. Like I don't want that to be forced. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's gotta whatever it is. It's gonna feel forced at first because everything does. And then if people like it and it's catchy and it catches on, that's how it becomes like. I mean. You guys can't tell, but those are all old band pictures back there.
All I see are just reflections off of them.
But I will say the House of Pain thing, that kind of reminds me of, I think it's either Wisconsin or Nebraska, one of those two schools. Whenever they score a touchdown, like the whole student section, they play that song, like the whole stadium just starts jumping up, going crazy. So
Seven Nation
actually
Army
would be pretty fun.
I think that's Wisconsin.
It would make a lot of sense for them to do jump because what is the one thing that RFK was known for?
Bouncing,
shaking,
jumping in the stands, and that would make a lot of sense that they would go down that avenue. I wanted to apologize to Tony Franchise, to Andy, and Charlie Gaddy. I apologize, but we already kind of answered your questions. Charlie's question was, do you think we've done enough to upgrade the linebacker position? And we kind of already talked about that with Khalil Hudson and everybody. Andy's question was, do you worry about what we have behind Chase and Montez Sweat? Already talked about that. And then Tony Franchise, how concerned should we be with the tight end play behind Logan Thomas? And Wizzy answered that perfectly. So I apologize, guys. I loved your questions. Keep them coming. I'm sorry that we answered them. But Wizzy, wanted to thank you for coming on, brother. I'm glad that we could finally get this done. You are one of my favorite follows on Twitter. Like I have my notifications on for you, brother. If you can, just let everyone know where they can find you on social media. I know you're on Instagram as well.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at It's Wizskins, and then on Instagram, just straight up Wizskins, man. Follow me. I love the support. I appreciate the pod. I'm glad to be on here. I love what you guys do, man. It's a blessing for me to just be on here and be able to talk to your fans. So I love to come on anytime, and hopefully it's not the last time.
Oh, it's 100% not going to be the last time, Wizzy. I can promise you that. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for your fan questions. To DCB Cause, Scott Hartley, Orange Crust, Andy, Charlie, and then to Tony and Brandon Reinbold. Thank you so much, everybody. And also thank you to Ian Cummings and Wizzy for joining us. All right, everybody. We'll see you guys on Thursday. I'm Kyle.
I'm Antonio Gibson.
I'm Todd.
And we will be joined by Reed back on Thursday. All right, everybody. Enjoy your night. We'll see you then. Washington football. Woo! Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. And if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you get notified when anything new is uploaded to the channel. Also, we just launched the BurgundyZone.com. You can go there and find all of our latest news, articles, and the latest episodes that are uploaded. Again, we also have the Discord chat server, where all of our VIP folks are in, like Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Sergio Martin is in there as well. Don't miss out on the Discord chat server. Go and check that out. Until next time, everybody, Washington football. Woo!